Hey everyone, welcome to a brand new podcast that we're starting here at Restoration Advisors. It's called My Favorite Guest of the Week. This is not replacing our standard weekly podcast of disaster podcast. It's just going to be different. It's going to be running alongside of it with a different theme. Might have some of the same people on different episodes sometimes. You never know. But this one is going to be more about the humans. Disaster Podcaster is about the industry of restoration, disaster recovery. It's about business, things like that. And although we have had interview styles on Disaster Podcaster in earlier seasons, this is going to be one on one with people that I have met or have maybe not met and find very, very interesting, whether or not I see them online or something like that. So, I'm just bringing on some people that you may know, you may not know, but I promise you probably want to get to know them. And then in the description of everyone, I'm going to leave a contact information if you want to reach out to that person, get to know them better, connect with them on, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it takes for you. But I'm all about magnetically bringing the people in this industry, the people in this world. And some of these people that might be on this podcast won't be from the industry where I spend most of my time and our guests today. They might be somebody I went to high school with. You just never know. But people I find interesting, and I think you will too. So that said, episode number one, it was not an easy task, but it wasn't difficult to say who should be on the first one. And I talk to this person pretty often, whether it's phone call or text. And this week, I thought that they would be my favorite guests. So it's just a matter of invite. And I want to bring in my good friend, Nick Lambert. Hey, Nick.
Hey, how you doing, Clark?
I'm good, man. Let me set you up with a little intro, and then we'll get going.
That's good.
Nick Lambert is he'll correct me if I'm wrong, which I probably will be. Around 17 years in this industry. We actually did a podcast before. I'll link that later, but 17 years in this business, spent most of your life in this beautiful state of Montana. Recently, as in the last year or so, have relocated to become a Texican. And obviously, everything that I'd love to hear a little bit about how, while those two states aren't that different, it's a lot to pick up your family and move to a different part of the country. And that's really cool. I followed a little bit of how that's been going for you. But restoration business owner, extremely spiritual, really, really is going to be a perfect guest, loves people. I would say you're probably the culture king. Culture is your middle name. That probably wouldn't have fit on that little Nick Culture Lambert. But I know that one thing that I would like people to know is that, Nick, you are a pop culture fan of anything 80s and 90s. And it is so much fun to watch how much that really, and you and your whole family actually get into events and stuff. So, welcome to the first episode of My Favorite Guest of the Week, Nick.
Thank you. And Clark, it means a lot that you actually would have me be a part of your very first, guest on your podcast. So, thank you for that intro. I think it was, you built me up, so now I have some really big expectations to live up to. So, but I think you hit it on the head when you said I am a pop culture. I wouldn't say I'm a king, but I'm a fanatic at it. I love everything 80s, love everything 90s, love the nostalgia, love being able to, just go back and just the feelings that we had and the experiences that we had and. Our lives were simpler back then. Things were so much, I don't want to say better, but it just different, right? We had so many different things that we grew up doing. And probably I know you're, fairly close in age. So I know that you're a little bit older than me, but we grew up riding our bikes in the street and mom and dad didn't know when I was going to be home. And I'd go over to the neighbors and neighbors would have that new Nintendo and I didn't have one yet. And you'd stay there all day just to watch them play. So, I love that nostalgia of it. And just how people treated each other and, just the lives that we lived back then just seems so much simpler. And I think that's why I gravitate towards it, but also the colors, the music, the hair bands, the hairspray, everything. It's all about who I am and what I enjoy doing. So
Speaking of big hair bands, did you see that Vince Neil's jet had a
Ooh,
crash on the tarmac in Arizona, and his pilot
yeah.
was
Oh, I don't know if
killed?
his pilot died, but his pilot was on it. Yeah. And I know Vince Neil really, really well. We're BFFs. Actually, but wouldn't that be cool if we were? But no. Yeah. So I saw that, and there were rumors that he had sold the plane, and then Eddie Trunk, who I listened to quite a bit. And if you don't know who Eddie Trunk is pretty much the guy who is responsible for Metallica getting played on the air. Back when Metallica first started, a lot of DJs weren't spinning the records, and so Eddie Trunk was very influential in that. He loved what he heard. He spun the record, and ironically enough, Eddie Trunk was actually at their Hall of Fame as a guest when they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They actually brought in Eddie, and they said that he was very heavily responsible for them getting the airplane. But I digress. I do that a lot. I tell you facts that you probably don't really want to know, but you get a lot of pop culture facts with me. But yeah. So Eddie had actually said that Vincent was not on the plane, but it was his plane. Yeah. And then Bret Michaels hopped on it, and I guess Bret knows the pilots or knew the pilots, and Bret flies in and out of that airport all the time. And so for Bret, it hit a little too close to home. So
yeah, I watched that, but I'm not a big news guy, Nick, and I kind of like stay in my, whether it's work or family, and just kind of over the news a little bit about what you said. We used to live in simpler times, and I don't have to get upset about something if I don't know what happened and it doesn't pertain to me. I mean, but it just seems like we've had an awful lot of plane occurrences in the last few weeks, like more than normal.
Way more than normal.
Yeah. So I don't know what that means. I did not bring my tinfoil hat today, but I'm like, it made me pause and say another
one.
Plane occurrence. So I don't know, but man, if it's okay tell me about Texas. Tell me, before I have some questions, but tell me what life looks like as a Texican, and because I are one.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I never really thought I'd ever move down to Texas, but yet here I am. So we moved down on August 1st of 2024, and so my life is right now. We're just trying to we're still getting settled in our house. We're still unpacking boxes. We're still putting stuff on the wall. You kind of see a little bit of clutter behind me, mess. We're still going through files, decorating the office and everything. So we moved into our house in October, waiting for it to be finished. We actually stayed in an Airbnb for about 3 months when we first moved down here. Rented one. Always all furnished. We put everything into our storage unit, and once the house was ready, we moved in. But lifelong Dallas Cowboy fan, not anymore. Once I moved down here, you realize how crazy Jerry Jones is. But once you move down here, you realize people in Dallas do not like Jerry Jones. Sure, he does some great stuff for the community, but a lot of people just do not like him. Very ego-eccentric. I am not attracted to ego. Once I came down here, things just kind of blew up, and I am no longer a Cowboys fan. So ironically enough, I grew up dreaming of being able to have a day where I could own season tickets to the Cowboys, and now, I mean, unless if it's a free ticket, I really don't go. So, but kids, we moved down here with our kids. One of them is a freshman, and she is 5'8", 5'9" as a freshman. She's excelling in volleyball. She's excelling in basketball. And as you know, sports are on a whole nother level when you come down here.
I was going to say that's probably a big difference, is the level of options and how serious it's taken. Yeah. Opportunities from that too, by the way.
So many opportunities. It's crazy, but I mean, it's I like it. It's been a change. I mean, you're 45 minutes from anywhere. So I'm 45 minutes from, downtown Dallas, 45 minutes from Frisco, 45 minutes. It's kind of what you say when you live in the suburbs. You're 45 minutes from everywhere. So,
yeah.
but I love all the resources that we have down here. If I order something on Amazon, I can get it delivered the next day. And that's just stuff that you don't have in Montana yet. And eventually you probably will, but the opportunities are endless down here. My heart will always be with Montana. I love the mountains. I love the snow, the mountain lakes. You and I have had numerous discussions about that over the years, and I'll make my way back to Montana eventually. But for now, it's nice to be able to go outside my comfort zone and go outside, the box that I grew up in, because really, other than when I was 8 years old and for about a period of 6 years where we lived in New Mexico growing up, I've never lived outside of Montana. So it's been really really enjoyed being down here. And again, it's out of my comfort zone. It's out of my wife's comfort zone. It's something that we never saw us doing. And then about a year and a half ago, we started having some deep conversations about it, and it just kind of everything just kind of fell into place for it. So
life just took its own course. I would say from where you are, and you're in Dallas, and so anyone listening, there's a lot of really good people there. And after this episode, I'm going to introduce you to some people. I mean, when I come to Dallas, it's usually a meal of 12 to 15 great people. But from where you are logistically, you can be in West Texas. Obviously, I know you've taken some road trips. We're talking. You went down to Austin area for a while. You can go north, Oklahoma. There's just lots to do, and Montana's the same thing. So I think you'll enjoy it. I'm interested to always hear about what people say that move there, because when you're not from there, you're shocked at how much pride. Everything's labeled for Texas.
Texas,
food, the drinks, the beer cans,
and the state song that everybody sings. I mean, it is unreal the amount of love Texas and Texas. I don't know what am I Texas. Yeah. So the amount of love that they have for their state, it's incredible. It's incredible. And not that Montanans don't have love for it. They do, but this is on a whole nother pride. It's a whole nother level. When you're from Texas, that just genuinely really means something.
It does. And they got a lot of pride. There's a lot of like individualism in the Texas people. Some people find it to be cocky. Some people just find it to be extremely prideful. I know that a couple of years ago, and anytime there's like a hurricane or an area-wide disaster, which Houston has a lot of those, and it was a big polar vortex, you'll see communities and areas really, like the governor stands up and says, this is what matters most. We're going to do what we got to do. That's not always the case in every other dissected state, but Texas is one of those. I mean, I saw that in North Carolina last year, but I enjoy when people are proud from where they are. It's not perfect, has its own problems. It's 110 degrees in the summer, but they say it's what we got, and it's our home. So, yeah, I continue to listen to how you experience living there, because, again, from being there the first half of my life and still calling it home, I still have an affinity for it. When I go back and get off the plane, I feel like I'm at home. But if it's okay with you, let's I got a couple of questions that might help us get to know Nick Culture Lambert a little better. Nick, I start my year every year with I kind of call it a theme, but it's a one word that embodies an approach or something I'm trying to do this year, and every year that's a little different. I've had some years where it's been the same thing, but what is 2025's like theme for you? What's the goal? What's on your plate? What are you trying to accomplish? And what word would you say is the word that's going to get you there?
Yeah. Boy, that's kind of a tough one. I really haven't thought much about that. I mean, obviously I've got a lot of things going on. I would say my theme this year is probably really, I would say last year's theme, I think, really was just more about survive. And I think this year it's more about evolve. And one of my employees actually came up with that. One of my partners in the business actually came up with that. And he says, I think that 2025 is a year of evolve for us. And I feel like that's a year of evolve and growth for me, because quite frankly, that's kind of what I've been doing, is going out of my comfort zone, doing things that it's not that I'm out of my comfort zone, but just doing things that I'm passionate about that I never thought was possible, that is possible. So
I like that word.
it's
Evolve
word.
is important. Evolve that's a strength word. Nick, I'll say it. I'm not going to say it every episode because it's going to be doing this, but mine's family. I've always been a family oriented person, but as much as I love my family, and even I tried my best to dote over them, we had some life experiences over the last couple of months that really I have put far more of an unbalanced amount of myself into our business. Now, I can make excuses about why I do that for the security of my family.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, my kids, my wife don't say, gosh, we just loved how much you put into your podcast, into your business. And so this year I'm looking for me to be more intentional about meaningful time, not just the time that we do get to spend, but what we do with it. I think, again, my family and I just were reminded in the last 4 months that you aren't promised tomorrow. And I live that. I actually have it on my necklace here, Memento Mori. You're not promised tomorrow. Stop living today like you've got 100,000 more. So for me, it's going to be family, and I know that's important to you too. But evolve, that's evolve too. I'm going to evolve to a person that's focused and puts passion into something else. So I look forward to watching how much you evolve and turn into, not to change, right? I know you're not trying to change. You're just trying to be more.
It's where is Nick going? What is in the pipeline for Nick? Where am I headed? And a lot of people ask me that. A lot of friends back in Montana, a lot of friends and family back home up there, they're like, why Texas? What's going on? Where are you going? And quite frankly, I'd say, well, I've got some ideas. God's doing some stuff here. I really don't know what it looks like yet, but I have some ideas. And I think that really every single day I get a little bit more of the picture of where I think I'm going. And I'm quite honestly, I'm really excited about it. I think that there's a lot of a lot of my story, and there's a lot to my story that I'm not that I am telling, and there's a lot that I'm still not telling. But the stuff that I've been through in the last 2.5 years, honestly, is enough to do anybody in. I mean, the fact that I am here right now talking to you is but by the grace of God and my family. If I didn't have the faith that I have in Christ, I honestly would not be here. And we could go over a milestone list, but we start with the unexpected loss of my father, and then within a 9-month period between my wife and I, we lost, I think, 8 people that were family or close friends. And so it was like almost every month we were getting a call that somebody passed away. It was just horrible. And then there's a lot of other stuff that goes into that. But so as I'm down here now, people are, well, what are you doing? And I really haven't had that answer. I haven't really been able to tell them, this is exactly where I'm going. But what I do know is that I feel like there's a lot of exciting things on the horizon that come into that whole growth, evolve. And I don't really say stepping out of your comfort zone, because I have a pretty wide comfort zone. I can adapt pretty easily. But I think that it's more about just seeing what's on the horizon and really trying to decide what I want to do and going after that. So,
well, I think you're going through the transition that we all are. You're getting older. We all are getting older. But once you pass 35, you hit 40, you do look back with different goggles and lenses, and you start to realize that, man, I kind of, no matter what gets thrown at me, I'm still here. And that becomes a chip on your shoulder. You're like, what else could I do? And I think that's just a maturity that we all have, and a wisdom. And obviously you surround yourself with people that push you like I have and you do. And so, but I think it's really cool. And I will tell you, there's nothing that if I were going to bet on something other than the Super Bowl, which I didn't, I would say bet on people who can show up after losses, after getting through COVID, grow a business in a tough time. Those are people who can do things. It's not about a Lambo. It's not about a watch or a jet or something. It's like people who, no matter what, when the chips are down, they can usually go. And Nick, that's the kind of people that I'm going to have lined up week after week after week, I hope, here. Let me ask you another question. We'll keep going here. I'm a big reader. I'm a big absorber of education. Is there a book or a course or a line of thinking that you're investing in right now? Like, where's your head at with your education track?
Yeah. I actually try to read quite a bit now. That was something I didn't do for a very, very long time. So I'm kind of back in the game of reading. I've finished a few different books, and you take what you get from it. But one of the books that I've talked about that's been probably the most impactful that I've read recently is Leadership Not by the Book, and it's by David Green. And David Green is the CEO of Hobby Lobby. So, and essentially, David tells a story about how he grew his business. What is his secret sauce? What made his business, successful and grow, and why he even talks about why he wrote the book. So, for most people, they've heard of Hobby Lobby, but they don't know the story of David Green. And, very passionate. We close on Sunday, very spiritual, relational guy. We're not going to work on Sundays. Could we make more money? Yeah, but it's not about the money. And his book was very impactful because it challenges you to do some things that I really felt like God was laying on my heart at the time. And I feel like that book is it really lines up with how I scaled and how I built a restoration company with my team. And so there's a lot that goes into a lot of similarities that David Green has that I have. Not saying I'm David Green. I don't own a multi-billion-dollar company, but what I'm saying is that there's a lot of similarities between faith, relationships, hiring people, culture, a lot of the same stuff. So, and for that, I think it's kind of putting me on a trajectory that I want to hit later this year. So it's a really fantastic book. If you haven't heard it or read it, I know a lot of people are more on audiobooks than reading. So it is available on audio. You can read it as well. I actually have both because I've read it and then I went back and listened to it. A couple. I think I listened to it on a road down when we were moving down here in August.
I remember you telling me about. I wrote it down. I like those kind of books. I like people who say, okay, there seem to be these unwritten rules in business that people make up, other gurus. But it's okay to break them because you've got to grow a business. You've got to work a job. You got to do it your way. Or I just big believer in, I don't build other people's castles. I build my own, because if I'm going to live in it, it's going to be my own. But I wrote that book down, back to my theme this year with family. I am a consummate reader. Over the last 4 years, Nick, I'd probably have read 300. And I journal about all of them. But what I think I found, I may have hit a wall and was a little burnt out. I was reading so much that I was starting to find out that, a lot of them are saying a lot of the same things. And I think I told myself, what are you trying to keep relearning? And when are you going to start you already know what to do, but you're not freaking doing it. So my thing is like, I won't say I know enough, because you never know enough, but I know enough about what I should be doing next to be who I want to be, who I can be, my potential. And now I just need to find those muscles and actions to do it. And reading more is an excuse for me to not do it, to stall it. So I'm trying to be intentional about I get a lot of content that comes to me. I've signed up for stuff. I'm a big YouTube guy, but I'm like, I don't need that noise. I've got this other noise that I'm creating myself. This on sonic. And, so that's where I'm at. But I know about Hobby Lobby. I've read small articles by him. and I didn't know he had the book. And we're going to gloss over this. I'm going to ask everyone in the description. I want you to connect with Nick, but Nick is writing a book too, and I'm gonna want everyone to check that book out. So if you follow him on socials and y'all connect or something, you'll see when he releases it.
It's coming close. We're
Good.
working with a publisher now. So it's getting semi picked up by publishing companies. So of course now they want to do things a little bit differently. They want to, let's plan a launch with this. Let's do this. Let's do that. So it's exciting, but at the same time, it just means that what I had hoped would be out, this month or next month, probably is going to be April or May before we actually see it. But still, it's really exciting, and it's a good read. I really enjoy it. So
two things. A younger Nick, when you talk about where you are now, you never saw yourself writing a book, right? Like things that are possible. I'm writing a book. I wrote a book too, and I'm like, if you knew where I was from, I'm from East Texas, man. I'm like, we don't write books. We can barely read them. I'm kidding for anybody in East Texas. But I also will tell you, publishing group, they're all good with it. Don't overthink the launch. You know who's going to be the best seller of that book? You. Just do it. Pull the trigger, push record, push go, and then talk about it, and it will catch its own. I didn't do any publishing. I don't know what we've sold. It really doesn't matter, but I feel good about it, and I feel good talking about it. So, hey, Nick, tell me a little. I think we already said it. These are some questions I wrote down here. For those that are listening, maybe in entrepreneurs, maybe in some journey in their life, I think we kind of alluded to you have seen areas of success in your life and your career, but can you tell me, or in the audience, if you feel comfortable, where have you not been successful, and what caused that? What would you look back and say, whatever you're comfortable sharing is, what is like, man, I'd like a do-over, because if I knew then what I know now, but what was that not successful segment, and share that with everybody, because they might not have hit it yet, or they might be going through it.
Boy, I mean, if I could go back, 20 years ago, I started this business 20 years ago in October. And for people that may or may not know me, I'm not involved in the daily operations of my business. I haven't been for a couple of years. But I started it in 2005. And boy, if I could go back to knowing what I know now, just go back, there's a million things I would change. But I think one of my biggest failures, honestly, came 6 years ago. Wait, that'd be 7 years ago. Man, I'm dating myself. I'm getting older here, Clark. 6 years ago was 2019. So 7 years ago, my business was really, I won't want to say we were struggling, but the culture in our business was just horrible. It was just absolutely horrible. And I didn't like where the business was going. And one of the biggest things that I feel like I failed at being a good leader to the people that I had that were on staff with me. I gave too much control, and then when I started wanting to make some changes, it was almost a little. I would say it was. You're trying to take control back from somebody you gave control to, and it just becomes kind of a battle. And so one of the things that I really had to really put, I saw myself becoming somebody I didn't like. I was working 90 hours a week, sometimes more. My home life was not good. My relationship with my wife was mediocre. I mean, we were both just kind of going through the motions because you get a call for a water damage at 8:30 and you're having dinner with the family. Well, actually, we don't eat that late, but 6:30, you get a call for water damage. You're like, I gotta go. And so I think that with the regime I had, I'd given too much control to the people that were working for me. And when I wanted to try to change the culture and try to implement new things that were going to help everybody, specifically myself, because I couldn't do it anymore. I was so burnt out. I think that that's where some of my biggest failure lies, is just I wasn't a good leader to my staff. And honestly, I knew I was a leader. I just never really, I won't say I never did, but I I kind of put my leadership on the back burner and let the business kind of exist. And it almost cost me. I mean, the business almost went under 6 years ago, and there's a whole detail about it in the book I'm writing. But I would say that that's one of my biggest failures. And it wasn't just a failure with business; it was a failure with my kids. It was a failure with my weight. I was almost 300 pounds, Clark. It was a failure with my family, my wife, my kids not being there. It was a failure for my friends. I had friends call me to check in on me, and I wouldn't even return their calls because I was so busy doing everything else. So I think that that's one of the biggest failures.
Well, let me spin this for those that are listening that might be before where you were. They were in your first phase. Growing a business can get real exciting. You again, you're kind of shocking and amazing yourself and those people around you. You're around new people that are thinking bigger, talking bigger, and you can get wrapped up into it. But you kind of like fall into, it's the next call, it's the next job, it's the next gig. And then you get to where you're kind of talking about where you were. So for those that are listening that are growing a business, or they've been in this and they're trying to get, you gotta be real clear on what not like only your revenue goal. And I don't want to make this about business, but you got to know about what you're going to do when you get there and why you want to have that. But I think what I heard in your conversation there, Nick, it's people are the most important thing. A lot of people, when you're starting a business, the most important thing seems like revenue, referral partners, opportunities.
Yeah.
You're going to find everybody's going to hit that ceiling. I don't know anybody that just skipped that whole point, but you got to find the people that you're going to need at that next 1 to 2 to 3 levels, and when you skip that, you end up with a business that is busier, fortunately, but then you're like crushing backwards because you're trying to do it all yourself, which it sounds like a lot of things. So for anyone listening, listen to Nick. I talk about it all the time. If you don't know what alignment, you got to learn what core values are and what they really mean. They're not just letters on the wall. And you got to live by them, and it might slow you down. It might slow your growth down, but you will grow a garden that will regrow every year instead of one that's good for 1 year. So thank you, Nick. I think that's a very trap that we've all fallen. I mean, I've had 11 businesses, and each one I've had a piece of that I forget what I know because I'm chasing this dopamine of success. So, let me ask another question, and then I want to, we got to start wrapping it up. I didn't want these things to be too long. I wanted them to be people that can listen on the way to and from a moisture monitoring check or something like that. But Nick, we're going to have between 1 and 1 million listeners here. If you could ask that audience to help you with something that you're not so great at right now, like one of those things, like I have them, like, if I could just blank, if I just knew someone that blank, what's something that if someone listening were to say, man, I love to give, what could I do for Nick Lambert? What's that one thing that you could ask? And again, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but what's something that you're not so great at and that maybe you don't even love, but if somebody out there were to phone call, pint of beer, pizza, whatever you have, meet at a show, what would that be?
Technology. I do not like technology. I do not like to embrace it. There's so much technology to learn.
Give me an example. Give me the technology thing that kind of pisses you off or just aggravates you. Give me an example.
Microsoft to Apple.
Yeah,
I don't even know how to, getting on.
Well, funny that today's sponsor is Apple. So no, I'm kidding.
Just trying to log on today. We had to download. I've got a new Apple computer. I too am getting ready to launch a podcast that's coming up here in the next few weeks, and so that's part of the thing. My wife's like, well, Apple's going to be the best basis for doing a podcast and recording and editing and blah 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 blah. Okay. And I said, all right, let's do it. And I couldn't even figure out how to download the app that we're on right now to be able to use it so I could access this. And so I had to call my wife and had to have her come in and show me. I don't have the patience for it. So I would say that that's probably my biggest thing that You want to help Nick figure out.
If anybody wants to listen,
do it for me. Do it for me.
If anybody is listening that has a business or some type of project that requires lots of technology, and you want to give a cheat sheet, reach out to Nick. We'll put his email down at the bottom. And then, Nick, I guess my last question is, I like to do the apples and oranges. What's the flip of that? What's the one thing that you think a lot of people struggle with that they could just reach out? Like, here's what I love to do. When I talk about putting your email address in the description, some people cringe, but you know what the truth is? Only 2% will actually take action and call. So don't worry about it. You're only going to have a few people. And if we only have 5 people watching, no, but if somebody could reach out to you and say, Nick, could I get 15 minutes of your time about something that I heard? What would that one thing be that probably you could help someone out?
Leadership, culture, being able to advance your culture within your organization. Leadership, not just in the business, but at home too. How to be a better leader and how to be a better servant. How to be a better husband, how to be a better wife, and being able to, and it's not specific to males, right? I mean, it's female or male, but how to be able to put yourself in situations to succeed. And I've been there. I've been the guy who worked 80, 90 hours, was completely exhausted. I'm the guy that was, rocky marriage and everything like that. But I also knew what I needed to do to fix it. And so people that are struggling with that, maybe you're struggling with your faith. Maybe you're struggling with needing encouragement. I love to encourage people. I love to help people. People are my jam. Like, I love the restoration industry, but it wasn't for me. I didn't love going to your house and drying it out. I didn't love restoring your house as much as I loved interacting with the people and being with the people and helping walk those people through such a difficult time. And so as we move into what's next for Nick, that's kind of what it looks like, is helping people advance, in their personal lives and in their business lives as well.
Well, it sounds like you could offer someone help with some leadership, but I would also say you probably would be a good model for resilience. What did the Goonies say?
Never say that.
Never say that. I like that, Nick. And I think I tell people all the time that if you've got an opportunity, if you've got a human that's willing to give you some education, information, I don't care if you think you know everything. If you got 10 people lined up, set time for all 10, because you're going to learn something you don't know to stack on top of it. So maybe somebody will reach out to you that might resonate with a little bit. I mean, I know in this industry we have a lot of pains, and I talk a lot about entrepreneurial burnout and depression, and we have a lot of alcoholism in this industry, drugs, just lots of those things. And I think that takes away from the good that we have the potential to do for people, because we really do. While we're no heroes, we're not firefighters, we help people in a time where they just don't know what to do next. And that is a powerful skill set to be able to do. So
it is. And like you said, it creates burnout, very, very high level of burnout in our industry. And not only that, but as owners or owner operators, there's just, the ups and downs of this industry sometimes can be enough to, to do you in. I mean, this is not an easy industry to be in. It really isn't. No. And I want to offer anybody I can encouragement for that, because you can do things different. There is a better way, but it's going to start with you, and you have to be the one willing to make the change. And I know that's kind of a cliche saying, but it's true. If you're not going to put in the work, then you're not going to get better. If I just decide to go to bed every single night and wake up when I wake up, how am I going to be able to accomplish what I want to accomplish in the morning? If I set my alarm and I say, this is the time I'm getting up, this is what I'm going to do from X to X to X, or X to Y to Z, you plan your day out, you're going to get far more accomplished. So again, it starts with me, right? My wife isn't going to be the one that can change me. It's me. My wife couldn't change me getting in front of people and being a better leader. It had to start with me.
There's a quote. I don't know who says it. The internet says that it's everybody that says this, but the thing that you seek and want is just right on the other side of what you're not doing, what you're avoiding, what you're hoping will just. You're in the back of the class hoping nobody calls on you, but you got to step out in the front. Hey, well, Nick, I want to open it up for anything you want to talk about. You're speaking at the Experience in Punta Gorda in a few weeks. Is that right?
Yeah. Doing the Experience in Florida. I'm going to be doing a track breakout session, and we're going to be talking to people about. It's gonna be based on taking your culture and how you can turn the culture into a positive force in your company and be able to really get to where I am, to where you don't have to work. I know there's a lot of people that are listening out there that it's a dream for a lot of people to build a business that they don't have to work in, or that they don't have to be in the day-to-day operations. Well, guess what? I did it. Not only did I do it, I moved. And part of my company is now owned by some of my staff. And this allows me to have all the free time I want to be able to chase the dreams and the goals that I have, which really I don't have a lot of major dreams anymore. I just want to be out there and I want to be able to help people. So it's going to start with the Experience. We're going to do that. We are looking at some options, some stuff right around the time the book launches. There'll be some book signings that are going to be going on. There'll be a few other things. I've got some opportunities on the table that may come about later in this year to doing a kind of a conference where people can actually come and attend one of my seminars and kind of put on a couple days where people can come and learn. And that's just kind of the beginning stages. So there's still a lot that's got to develop with that. And then I believe the Experience has me down as well in October. And no, not October, September in Vegas.
In Vegas, the big one. Yeah.
The big one, yeah. And I think at that one, I'm going to be talking about what to do when you plan for a sale and the sale doesn't go through.
Yeah.
So a little teaser there, but it, there's a lot that kind of goes with that, and I think that that's going to be a good one, and that's actually something that the Experience directly asked me to create something for.
That's a good topic. With all the M&A activity we've had in the last few years, we hear about, or we don't hear about much, and everybody assumes that they all go peachy keen, and they don't. So I think what we glossed over that people may not have picked up on, you were just talking about, Nick still owns his very, very successful restoration company. He just lives 5-6 states away, and he has built a team, made them owners, and it operates, and you're literally sitting in the seat of visionary CEO, planning, strategic, and that doesn't take every day. It's cast a vision and then be there to help everyone execute the vision as long as they're engaged in it. So lots and lots coming up for Mr. Nick Lambert. You got a book, you got speaking engagement, you got a podcast that I just heard you blurt out. I'm going to put your, would you like me to put your LinkedIn or your Facebook page, or what? We'll get together. The description.
I'll get you this stuff. Yeah. Because it's going to be, the podcast is going to be launching very, very soon. And it's going to be called All Things Service. And kind of like how you're doing, I'm going after people in the service world that I've known for years that have been successful, and bringing them on. And we're going to talk everything. We're not going to talk politics, but we're going to talk sports. We're going to talk pop culture. We're going to talk some music. And we're going to talk business, and we're going to talk about with these people about what made them successful. And then you're going to get it from a bunch of different varieties of, it's not just the restoration world. It's anybody that's service industry driven. That could be a restaurant. That could be, it could be a plumber. It could be a HVAC. So I'm really excited about it. The response starting out has been amazing. So
well, here's what I'm going to do. Everybody go to the description on this. This podcast is on YouTube as well as on your regular Spotify, Apple for audio only. But in both places, there's going to be contact information and channels to connect with and to follow or to participate with Nick on whatever he's doing in the future, and end up being and learning what Nick and I both know is the more people we meet, the more successful we get, and that's true for me. I know it's true for a lot of people. As played baseball in college, and the more at bats I get, the more opportunity I've got to put wood on leather, and that's what this is all about. Meet more people, do more things, and stuff like that. So, Nick, man, it was fantastic for episode 1 to have you on. You're my favorite podcast guest this week, I promise. But you have a good rest of the week. I can't wait. Please have me on your podcast when you kick it off, and we'll cross pollinate both of these audiences.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Take good. Have a good afternoon.